This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everyone. She can coach you to a better life. And what makes her radically different in a wonderful way, she uses the power of astrology, essentially astrology, wellness coaching. And today we're going to talk about the retrograde, especially the Mercury retrograde, which is just beginning. If you don't know about it, maybe you should. If you do know about it and you're concerned, let's kind of dig into that and see if we should be with our professional VA. Nancy Volante is on the program. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Steve. It's been it's a little bit of a week that's gone like, oh, it feels good. Oh, it doesn't feel good. Oh, it feels good. It doesn't feel good. So I'm good, but to be honest and authentic, that's the kind of week it's been. That's like a little bit of the energy update, like right, front and center.
I'm
And
not going to say this just because you're saying it.
no,
I agree.
you know,
It's like almost like a little bit of a, I don't want to say an emotional roller coaster, but an
oh
energetic
yeah,
roller coaster. So, yeah, I
I would
got you on
say,
that.
yeah, emotional and energetic. So, there's times, and I think that because we're human, obviously we get triggered by it. And then maybe we begin to become a little bit more mindful and conscious and we try to ride it. But it's hard. It's hard. And I think the less we resist and the more we reflect, which is really what retrogrades are about, it makes it easier. But you know what? That's easier said than done. That's just something to put in the toolbox when you're really feeling like, oh my God, this is like squeezing me way too hard. I guess
Mm.
that's what I like. I felt squeezed this week. You know how when you're
Oh,
squeezed and then it releases.
you know, something presented recently for me. Um, and now that I recognize that I know the retrograde was about this time. I didn't know it was right about now. I thought we had another week, but we're still in the pre-phase. Um,
Yeah.
it's something that I've been working on with somebody else. It's been okay, but something changed recently and I'm seeing it in a different way. And I'm actually going to deal with it later today and make a change because it doesn't support me. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that I feel like I've hit a wall. Like it's crystal clear. No, no bueno here. Where but previously, last couple of months, whatever, six, I've been like, yeah, all right, we're kind of do it, move through this venture, if you will. Now
Mhm.
it's like this is not right, Steve. No, wake up, dude. This is it, and I'm going to deal with it later today. But I feel like it is. It's almost like there was a sort of like a veil in front of it, and I was like, well, I can sort of see what's going on. It was just lifted. I'm like, oh, whoa, oh, okay, now I got it. Now it's crystal clear. Is that a product of the retrograde?
I think it is because you're retracting. So if I was going to explain what a retrograde is, which I really like retrogrades, and your birth chart has them in it too, and that tells you
Hmm.
a little bit about more about yourself and how you come to this lifetime with your consciousness and how you'll deal with that or not, right? So retrogrades are about it's like a U-turn. So the planet really isn't moving backwards, right? It's an illusion, like when we're on a train and we think, oh my God, we're moving backwards, but we're not. So that's kind of what it is. So it's like if you think of it as a U-turn, you're still on your journey. You're still on that path that you want to be on, and maybe not, but that journey, that U-turn just brings you back to that retrograde saying, did you miss anything? Right? It's like what you said, Steve. The veil was lifted. Okay, well, that retrograde kind of went back and allowed you to see what you really needed. And if you're paying attention, you get that. See, it's all about paying attention. I think life is about that. And this tool that we're using of spirituality and consciousness and physical growth and all of that is that tool where if we're conscious, we can see those U-turns.
Hmm.
And, the Mercury, which is going to be July 18th until August 11th, the only thing that I say, you can't stop living, right? They say, don't sign contracts, don't do this, don't do that. But I do want to say, I sold my yoga studio during a Mercury retrograde. And I tell you, if I went to another astrologer and said I was doing that, they would have
Mm.
said,
Hmm.
don't do that.
Yep.
Don't do that. And you know what? I took a risk, which I think part of living and part of being more of who you are, authentically listening to your own voice, is listening to that with consciousness, with a little help, a coaching or whatever. I still went forward because I really listened to my voice and my inner being. But with that said, and with a Mercury retrograde, you want to dot your I's and cross your T's. You want to be super mindful of how you're speaking, what you're learning, what you're bringing to the table, what your thought patterns are. And I did that through this. It was not an easy thing to do during Mercury retrograde. And I really had to trust that, you know, the planets in the universe are not here to screw you up and to trip you up,
Hmm.
right? They're here to guide and teach. So I did it. But the thing that I didn't do is I told the woman that I was selling it to, I said, the thing, we're doing this during a Mercury retrograde, blah, blah, blah. But the thing I won't do is sign the contract on the day that it goes, that the day that is during the time that it was Mercury retrograde. I
Okay,
said, we're
let
going
me
to
make sure I understand
install
that
it.
now.
Yeah,
So,
I know, because I
okay,
got,
so we have the period of 3 weeks. You did
yes.
not sign anything during that time?
I went to the very end, the next day after, that's what I was trying to say. When Mercury went direct, that I signed the contract the next day. Now, we're still in a shadow, post shadow, but it wasn't as, and everything went great.
Mm. Well,
Meaning
okay.
I didn't sign the sublease, right? I
Yeah.
said, I
So
can't. I waited to
you
the
really
very end.
didn't do it during a retrograde. I'm just saying you contemplated, you were there, but you didn't officially pull the trigger until
No.
uh
So there's certain things you can do, but I did all the planning, the revisions, the communicating, right? Through that time where there could have been hitches to, during that, it could have said, she could have said, I don't want to do this anymore, right? So what I'm saying is to be conscious of what you're doing. Like for instance, today you're having a conversation with somebody. May I ask, is this somebody that you worked with before that's coming back
um
or somebody new?
it's somebody I knew, but I didn't work with them before. And the process has been, you know, 6 months in the making and tooling and working on something. It's not really working now for a few reasons. Not working for
Yeah.
me. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but I think that's very interesting and important because it was somebody that you knew. Now, Mercury retrogrades, just to backtrack a little bit, can bring back exes. I'm not saying this was an ex, to bring back exes, to bring back emails, to bring back
Mm,
people
mm.
that you might have known. Oh, I know that. Oh, I think I'll do this. So you went through the 6 months of learning, communicating, and
Building.
now when push comes to shove. No, it's not right. So,
Right.
so there is the learning in that Mercury retrograde. There's the consciousness.
Mm. And it's very definitive where I'm one of those people where I get to a point, it's all good, it's all good. Maybe it's not exactly the way it should be, good, and then I get to a point where no, 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 can't go past that point. It takes a lot to get me to that point, but
Yeah.
now, but interestingly, it's retrograde, and we're in the pre-phase. It's almost like it was revealed. Now, I agree with you on all those major things. Like, don't buy a house, don't buy a car, don't commit to something um, during the retrograde. Sometimes you have to.
But
But
sometimes you have to.
me personally, even elective surgery. Like, I've been confronted with that a few times where, a little procedure, like, yeah, I gotta wait a couple of weeks if that's all right.
Yep.
Why
And you know
not?
what? That's the one place that I would, like if you're going to do surgery, like I had to do during I think it was during this the one previous, I had to do some dental work. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to wait because of the communication. So there's certain things that I will not do, but certain things come up in your life that you don't have, like it has to be done. So that's what I'm talking about. That that you don't have the choice to say, oh, let's stop this. But so if you have to go through it, going through it with a feeling of consciousness, reading things before. A really great thing in Mercury retrograde. Now, this Mercury retrograde is in Leo. Okay. Say
Hmm.
Mercury retrograde was in Virgo. You'd want to rest your mind because the Virgo is about the mind. This Mercury retrograde is in Leo. It's about the heart. It's about our creativity. It's about how do we express ourselves with other people and not get so bold that we run over everybody, but that we keep some kind of a balance and we understand that, yeah, I am this Leo energy that could be a leader, but I can be a leader within the communication, within what we're working on, whatever that creative project is. So, Leo's fire. So it can go, oof, it's a lot of energy blowing into Mercury right now, that fire energy. So that's what you want to be careful what you say, like
Mm.
think about it first before you just say it. That's a big one for this Mercury retrograde.
In the situation I'm describing, I feel you. I can feel you because
Yeah.
I've been marinating over this for a day as things presented, and I'm chill. This has been like meh, meh, like just I feel just the fire feeling of what you
Yeah.
just described, and that's very
Yeah.
unlike me where I get to that point like it's odd, but I believe it's retrograde connected. If you could describe, and you said this retrograde's Mercury retrograde is in, was it Leo?
Leo.
Okay. Um, if you could put that in a couple of sentences, why is that different than other ones? Why is this, what are the unique qualities of this retrograde in Leo?
Yeah. So because every archetype has a mutable energy, or not a mutable, an energy to it. And this is a fixed energy. Okay. So Leo is fixed. It's the element of fire. So when you have a fixed sign, which is I won't go through all of them, but Leo is a fixed sign. That's determination. It's a little bit of a squeeze because it's considered a square. It's like a square, so it's squeezing us a little bit to make decisions under determination, so we can come through the fire, because Leo is a fire element. That's our will, that's a little bit of that's our vitality, what we want, how we get there, our creative. And you know what? It's also our intuition. Um, and so how are we going to get there? Fast and not really be mindful and think about it, Mercury? Or are we just going to give it the whole ball of wax and roll like a fireball into our expression, if that makes sense?
Hmm.
Now, if it was Mercury and Pisces, that would be water and it would be mutable. So the mutable energy would be more flexible, would be more, moving with a flow energy. And Pisces is water, so it would be more inspirational, maybe more unconscious, that you'd have to really dig for that, but then it could also be that divine. So all the archetypes have that different quality, and you place the planet on top of it. You place Mercury on top of any of those archetypes, it's always going to be about how do you think? How do you communicate? How do you learn? What is your learning patterns? How do you communicate within yourself?
Have you ever done this, Nancy? Yeah, you just sit around, you get a little bit of time, and look back to events and situations in your life and see if they were during a retrograde.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm trying to think of one. Well, the one that I just had was selling my studio, which was huge. Um, but now I can't pick one up. But when we're get through, I'm gonna look at that because that's a really beautiful thing to do as far as like if you're gonna bring astrology into wellness coaching. I think that looking back at retrogrades, which is what a retrograde is all about, you
Hmm.
start, and we've talked about this, you start, I'm going to say it in a different way, you start to thread the needle to be able to weave this together because that's what it is. It's a universe, right? That's woven together. Sometimes it is disrupted, but then it kind of mends itself. So I think it's a great idea to do that. And it's really interesting to do that with a coaching session. I think it's,
Mm, mm.
especially with trauma.
So I have, another thought here. And what if the retrograde took place when you were born? It was during a retrograde. Is there significance there?
Yeah. And are you talking about just in Mercury or in any
We'll
planet?
focus today because Mercury retrograde starts in a day.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
let's focus
yeah.
there.
That's a big deal. So you always want to look at what planets, and some people won't have any planets that's retrograde. It all depends. Some people will have a lot. That means like if you had Mercury retrograde when you were born, and that's part of you, you're not going to be too disheveled by the Mercury retrogrades. It's going to be something that you're used to because it kind of is about who you are. You're always going to be either taken back inside or thrown back inside, no matter what the conversation is with the other planets. It's
Mm.
always going to be an internal process with you, with Mercury, with the communication with self.
Can I share something? And I just did a quick
I,
search, and
I love it. I love when you share.
not going into detail, but there was a major
Yeah,
event in my life when I was much younger. I was, man, I might have shared it last time we got together, but it was career connected, very big. Um,
I think you did, and
yeah.
that it was amazing.
And I just looked. That was during a retrograde,
Are you
Mercury.
kidding? You see, you're not kidding because you can't make this
You
up.
can't make this up. You can't make this up. And
Wow.
getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
And that year, which was impactful, we had that event, was a big deal. It was also the year that my father passed, an uncle passed, and an uncle passed within like 2 months of each other.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's a lot.
then I looked, and the retrograde that year began another one. And we didn't mention this, but typically there's like 3 weeks a
Yes,
piece.
that's
And
right. That's right.
sometimes it's four, but um,
Yes.
the retrograde that year began on my birthday as well. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know the significance, but that was a hell of a year.
Wow. I'd love to see, yeah, to look at your chart that year and compare it to now. You don't have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart. Do you know that offhand?
I don't, and I don't think
Yeah.
you mentioned that.
I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah. But the fact that you did have those Mercury retrogrades during those big events in your life, depending on what house it was in, Steve, depending on what archetype it was in, is really calling you again. And we've said this to you, big communication. Communication inside and out is so important to you in your learning, in your soul evolution. Now, I'm going to say in your soul evolution, and I'm also going to say in your soul contract,
Mm,
like what you came in, how we came in to evolve as a soul.
wow.
That's really, I think it's beautiful. I think retrogrades, and I might have said this, but I'll say it again, really are about consciousness.
Yes,
We pay
opening
attention.
your eyes in some regards. And I know that, a lot of us, myself included, my radar's up during a retrograde where, I'm not in freak mode, but it's like duly noted, I'm going to back up some hard drives.
Yes, exactly. I had that down.
Hmm, it's work, but it's those things just to cover all bases, and then certainly not starting something new or anything like that. What else can you share with this particular retrograde? Anything come up for you that we should know, what we should do?
Well, the interesting thing about this retrograde is that it comes on the heels of Saturn going retrograde. So Saturn went retrograde July 12th. And I think it's really big because I think we talked a little bit about this. It governs time, it governs karma, and it governs our long-term goals. So we have Saturn retrograde. That's kind of what's called, moving towards this Mercury retrograde. So they're going to be speaking to each other. So the interplay, and I wrote this down, I wanted to write this down, the interplay between the Saturn retrograde and the Mercury retrograde is that Mercury is going to bring the message, okay? Always is
Hmm.
going to bring the message in Leo from the heart, from our creativity. And Saturn is going to deliver the long-term consequences or the long-term lessons. What am I going to learn from this message that Mercury is giving me in Leo from the heart space? And how do I connect with my creativity? What is the long-term consequence or not consequence? What is the long-term trajectory of that? And how does that structure my growth and what my vision looks like? Because you know Saturn rules Capricorn. Capricorn is vision, and we had that Capricorn full moon, so it all dances together. So if you put them together, Steve, it's time, memory, thought. Memory is Saturn, time is Saturn, thought is Mercury, karma is all under revision.
Why karma with the culmination of these two retrogrades? What's going on there?
Yeah, because Saturn rules karma.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Does that mean that those we believe should be receiving karma? And a lot of times that word is used in a negative way.
It is. And I think we kind of touched on this the last time. Karma, and I just became, for me, mindful and conscious of this because I was listening to a podcast, and the woman said, karma is not about doing something bad or good, right? Yeah, we make mistakes, we don't do the right thing. And when we come back, and that particular situation comes back in this lifetime to be revised or to look at, karma is really about consciousness and how can we evolve out of a lower version of ourself into a higher version. How do we take those parts of ourself and come back to wholeness? That's what I think karma is coming back to wholeness. But you got to do the work, and that's Saturn. You got to do the work, and sometimes the work is not fun. It doesn't feel good. But I tell you, once you do it, Saturn does give the reward, and the reward is the green light, the go.
Super interesting. Like
Yeah,
it really is. Um, Final question. We are out of time, but I got to know
please.
how often does Mercury retrograde take place during other planetary retrogrades? Is it a lot? Is it kind of rare, or is it always going on?
It's always going on.
Okay,
Like
gotcha.
right now, Steve, Pluto is Pluto retrograde? I know Neptune is going retrograde or is I have to look that up. Uran, no, Neptune is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, Pluto is retrograde, and then Uranus will be going retrograde. We got all the outer planets by August going retrograde at 1 degree. That's huge.
And that's during Mercury retrograde, which ends in August. I think you said August 11th.
August 11th. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we got a big mix here. That doesn't always happen, Steve, but right now that's the mix of the cake.
Mm. In less than 5 words, when that we get to that point where there's a lot going on, should we be concerned?
I think we should be thoughtful. I think whatever is happening in your life, and if you are concerned, it's a time, and I think it's a time anyways, right now, with all those planets retrograde, especially Saturn, slow down. It's a time of slowing down and not moving forward in your endeavors so fast, but to think, really let things kind of integrate like
Gotcha.
I'm a
Tap
cook.
the brakes. Tap the
Yeah,
brakes
take the
and
breath. Take back
yeah,
the brakes.
gotcha. And observe. Take a look before you step on the gas and keep going forward. Doesn't mean you have to stop, but just tap the brakes and
Yeah,
just look around.
because you can't really stop. I mean, sometimes you can, but I think this particular phase of energy is about really big observing and understanding and compassion. Mercury in Leo is wanting us to have compassion.
Gotcha. Fabulous, Nancy. So much insight here. And,
Thanks, Steve.
I think disarm some people too. There is when you say Mercury retrograde, people are, defense, but it
Yeah,
doesn't have
and
to be that
no,
way.
no.
Just be prepared. That's it. And ultimately, we're talking about really coaching principles when you take those elements from astrology. How do we find you?
So you can find me on my website, which is thewhisperingsoul.net. You can find me on Instagram, the Whispering Soul Astrology. And if you do, I have an astro energy update and mantra every day, telling you where the moon is and other little tidbits. And then you can email me at nancy@thewhisperingsoul.net. And my phone number is 203-770-8938. I'd love to hear from you.
Love talking with you. Thank you for today.
Love talking with you too. Happy Mercury retrograde.
See, we spinned it into a positive.
That's
It's
right.
like happy
You
Mercury
have
retrograde.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We'll catch up next time.
All right. Take care, Steve.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.